Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my review of Backpack Battles. For those not across it, I do overviews and reviews. I try and get through probably 2 reviews a week on the channel. My one objective standard that I hold to is that for every $5 that a game asks me, I expect to give me a good hour of solid gameplay loop. Whether it's early access or not. I'll just chuck in the quick aside, I kind of despise early access. It's a cool, novel little idea that's been turned into a money-making machine. Essentially, gamers, you're gaslit into being free beta testers paying full price for a game that may never actually be fully realized. So I'll review an early access game, but I will review it against its price point at launch day as well. And if it's not good enough, I will call it out because it's your money at the end of the day. Fortunately, on the back of all that sort of anger, this game is quite brilliant. And it's better than a lot of other 1.0 games. So that's a good bit of news. Arguably worth putting your money into and seeing where it goes going into 1.0. But yeah, $5 to 1 hour is the exchange that I do as a minimum. It's a minimum bar. It's there as a pass-fail. It's not the be-all and end-all. So Backpack Battles is going for $19 Australian, 20, and 4 hours I would say would have been reasonable for a review, and I've put 10 in. So that gives you an idea of what's going on here. So yes, worth your time, worth your money? Absolutely. I think so. For sure. Let's talk about what it actually is. The 100-foot view being, you may look at this and think that it is a Backpack Hero ripoff. It is not. However, they share an aesthetic and a general direction that is pretty obvious. This sort of idea of Tetris arrangement in a backpack set up to generate combos or whatever. Now, Backpack Hero, I haven't played that in a while, and that's quite brilliant in its own right, is more of a sort of dungeon crawler type game. This, while it does, obviously they share that aesthetic, it's actually very different and much closer to something like Super Auto Pets. The idea being that it's sort of PvP in that it takes your build and versus someone else's build and it plays out in an auto battler style. I'm not quite sure the nuance of how it works, but I can only assume that it takes a dude X rounds into a run and puts it up against your one as well. There's a ranking, so there's some sort of elo in the background as well. But I think the idea is, if you've essentially earned X rounds of money for your run, that's kind of who you're versing as well. And yeah, it's quite thrilling. It's addicting. Again, the fact that I've already sunk all these hours in and I'm going to play it even more. There's more than enough content here for something that's early access. Again, they could have launched this as 1.0 and that'd be fine. I believe it's like a couple or 1 or 2 devs, something like that. So it's already got a pretty commendable amount of sort of variety. There's a bunch of different classes and they do have a lot of overlap in their items that you build with, so probably 3/4 is shared. So if you really wanted to scrutinize, I suppose you might wear out on the combinations that are available, though something like this is going to shift and change as metas emerge and encounter metas. I've already found that I'm coming up against bloody pyromancers with a shitload of flame a lot, and all that's doing is showing me that the best way to climb the ranks is with things that strip debuffs like crazy, and you sort of take away their toys. And I can only assume that something like that might worm its way into as a second degree meta, which then would generate builds that maybe don't use buffs quite as much. Anyway, this is nothing new. This is stuff that you see in things like Hearthstone and that, but the beauty of this is that you can do it at your own pace. It is not real time. It's not really true PvP. It's more my build versus your build when you press the go button. So yeah, there's 2 parts to this. In a way, oh my god, I use the comparison a lot because I find it helpful, but Tarkov, in a way. The idea of downtime in the base, setting up for a run, going out for the run, though the similarities end there. So in this between rounds, you'll get a normal amount of income and then you'll have a shop that you can sort of re-roll. It's all very roguelike run base. You can expand your backpack, you get combos, you kind of get not set pieces per se, but more like unique items that can set you up for pretty long chain builds. But even then, there's some pretty wild stuff. It's all very cowboy. I think this game actually had a lot of real support during the demo period. That's why it's come out of the gate with so many sales and so many high review ratings. I feel like the devs have actually done quite well marketing wise. That when they started asking for money, they had an astronomical install base setting them up. And honestly, at that point, as much as I dislike early access, they've already earned goodwill through the demo system being active with their community, and the hope is that they just add more items, I guess, over the course of the journey to 1.0 and make a shitload of money along the way. So good for them. The aesthetic's all very clean and quite cartoony, and you might have noticed characters are kind of bloody disgusting, degenerate furries, and I can overlook that. And if I can overlook that, bloody you can too. So that makes the praise even higher, to be honest. If there are bloody furries in this game, and I'm still recommending it as a great experience, it's gotta be good. So yeah, the first part is setting up your run, and then you go out and you basically showdown again against not a mirror, but someone probably on the same elo rank as you. And it's cool. And I would say if you're watching this fairly close to when I put it up and you find this sort of interesting, jump on it now, man. Like I said, I'm seeing some builds come out. There is something akin to, I don't know, playing like a Dark Souls or Elden Ring right on launch when it hasn't been wrecked by everyone knowing all the answers and the secrets and the guides and all that sort of stuff, and you can kind of try and figure it out for yourself still. Part of the community in a way. There's something going on here, even though it seems that there are a bit of sweats that have carried skins and that over from the demo. I'm having fun in the discovery process of just creating wild builds. Personal favorite of mine, because there's different classes and I pretty much only play the Berserker, is using just an axe. Actually, it's very high stamina. It's a fairly basic weapon, but every time it hits or swings, it adds 1 damage to its stat line for that moment. And then I couple that with, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a bloody pigeon or something like that. The more the merrier. And that thing, every time it does its cooldown, the things that it's synergizing with around it, there's little star icons you might see. Any item that's activating within its area of effect reduces its cooldown by 5%. It's this compounding thing. And so the longer that the run goes on, the faster my axe is swinging, and every time it swings, it's adding a damage. It's not the most complicated build, but I tell you what, all these soft blokes building their bloody sorcerers and their potions and their cauldrons in the bloody corner with their bows and arrows, mate, they can't take the withering axe bloody scarlet build after a while. You just got to make sure you don't die in the beginning. But yeah, there's all sorts of cool interplay, you know, I don't need to rattle it all off. Another one, I've had a bit of success with like dual brooms of all things, and then the brooms can sort of morph into shovels if you combine them with a frying pan or something, and then that in turn will have, every time you go back to the shop, it'll dig an item out of the ground. There's another thing, a jewelry box does something similar as well. It generates a low-level gem and you can combine them and socket them as well. So it's wearing that inspiration, that Diablo inventory stuff on its sleeve, and it converts so well to here. Anyway, it's absolute digital crack. And like I said, I believe it probably has a lot in common with Super Auto Pets, which is a game that I didn't really, it's not that I bounced off of it, but it didn't grab me enough to really go in on it. So I tried it, I recognize it's good, but it just didn't get its claws in. And for whatever reason, this backpack management crap is just the ticket. In a year where we've had this and Balatro and Deep Rock Survivors, all these smaller, run-based, punchier, just pure gameplay and no bullshit story or anything like that. What a great start to the year. I've always got time for these smaller, cheaper, punchier little games, and it's yet another argument as why do we even have a AAA industry when you've got bangers like this coming out. But anyway, that's a whole other rabbit hole I don't need to go down. Keep your eyes peeled. I will put this in the rankings at the end of the week. For those who want to cross it, I do this Road to Game of the Year weekly update series where I'm sort of seeding all 100 games that I review across the year, and I expect that this will rate fairly highly. Anyway, team, let me know what you reckon. Might just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.